Elaine Kub is our corn and soybean market analyst this week. The USDA's final estimate of U.S. production in 2015 will be released in its January crop report, scheduled for release on Tuesday the 12th. Currently, the agency is projecting the largest soybean crop on record and a corn output of nearly 13.7 billion bushels. As we approach the last week of December, we talked with Elaine Tuesday afternoon and began by discussing corn and soybean price movements.
Last few days really quiet, but that's to be expected this time of year. Actually, sometimes at the end of December you get really light volumes of trade, and so you can have really wild days. But this year there wasn't a lot of fund rebalancing that needed to happen because the grain prices really didn't change year over year, so basically flat.
All right, we're hearing some news out of Brazil about some probable weather concerns. How real are those issues?
Well, they're real issues, but to what extent they will influence overall production, it's hard to say. It's beans, right? And we've seen that here in the United States in 2015. We had some areas that were very wet and lost some acreage, but overall we still had, record-breaking bean yields in a lot of places. And so it's really uncertain whether Brazil's beans will be as resilient also. I mean, the conventional thinking at this point is they're not going to have a record large harvest. It will probably be less than 100 million metric tons, but I don't know if it's time to panic yet or not. Last week we had a couple of really big days, and the thought was everybody was just waiting to find out, is this a weather rally? Looking back, it looks more like an export, but some buying from the Chinese probably spurred that, maybe some fund positioning here at the end of the year. It didn't last into this week, so I don't think that we're pushing the panic button yet for Brazil.
What are you looking for in beans? I mean, is it going to be a weather rally out of South America, or are you just holding on for a certain price once we get into 2016?
I think that, the market is likely to fluctuate one way or the other, and without a weather rally from Brazil, you would have to think very long and hard. You get another 30 cents or so, see a $9 futures level, just the psychological resistance of that might be the time to be selling if there is no problems out of South America, especially because of the pressure coming from Argentinian selling, and just the dollar continuing higher here. So there's going to be a lot of pressure on beans if there is no weather rally to boost them.
That Argentina thing is still kind of uncertain though, yeah?
It's uncertain, and it's also slower moving than I think than we realized right away. They're not removing the entire export tax immediately. They're removing it by 5% per year, and you guys have probably covered some of those details here. However, with the currency devaluation, that will be more encouraging to their farmers to let go of those bushels.
Let's move into corn. How much corn do you think has been sold from this previous crop here?
It's impossible to get good data on that. So anecdotally, just from the merchandisers, there was, right after harvest, you'd expect to see maybe 30-40% of their bushels of them having ownership of them, but they maybe only had 10 or 15%. So it's definitely behind an expected pace for this time of year. We don't know how much, though.
Do you think the stocks report that we'll get in January will be helpful at all?
I think the market will trade those numbers, and they're likely to be very bearish numbers, right? This was a big crop, and big crops get bigger, as they say. There will probably be a lot in storage, but a lot of that may be on farm storage. But it's going to be as of December 1st, so it won't reflect any of the selling activity that's happened through this month. Even these little rallies that we've had this month might have spurred some selling activity that won't be reflected on that report.
Does the U.S. ending its oil export ban have a big impact on anything here?
I mean, it has an impact. Not the ending of the export ban. The overall inventory levels, these huge inventory levels that we have right now, make oil cheap, make fuel cheap. That's good for farmers until it starts, affecting ethanol profitability. But for now, it's good news. The export lifting of that right now doesn't matter because there's huge inventory levels internationally also. In future years, if you had an imbalance, if we continue to have lots of production here, and maybe OPEC starts to cut, then there might be some balancing that takes place. But right now, not a problem.
Are we also playing the waiting game in corn?
Absolutely. I mean, barring some change in perhaps the Black Sea region. I mean, feed grains out of that region is something that they have had some dryness or lack of snow cover. I mean, there's things that could happen to fundamentally spur something in corn, but if nothing happens, then yeah, I mean, you maybe take a 30-cent rally, but that's about all you can hope for.
Let's close out looking at basis. How do you think this thing moves here as we enter 2016?
I think the farmers are in the catbird seat here, that they have, like we talked about, held those bushels back from the market, and they can continue to do that. If you don't see the sudden selling right after the first of the year that we hope to see or expect to see usually, then basis could continue to be very strong. Right now it's about 25 cents, nationwide average 25 cents under March futures. That's very strong for this time of year.